Nirmalaji, welcome to this virtual version of TET Awards. Uh, may I request you to deliver your opening remarks?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Economic Times. I would have loved to be physically participating in an event of this nature where I've benefited coming over, interacting with everyone there. But this year, unfortunately, we are doing it in the virtual mode. But I'm sure, as Vinitji observed, the next year at least we'll have an opportunity to meet up in person. You are gathered to recognize the achievements of those even during these challenging times. And you're talking of a post-COVID world returning to a high growth path. Many things have been said, many observations have been noticed, revising of rates have been spoken about. The World Economic Outlook, as was spoken by the International Monetary Fund even in January, is revising its estimates, revising upwards gladly. So you see today even the global growth path is having a positive impact, but in that India's growth path is being pitched a notch higher. And I'm glad for it because the first quarter of 2020, we all knew what was the impact of the lockdown, which was necessary because we placed premium on the lives and a bit later on livelihoods also. So it is important now, therefore, to recognize those factors which are definitely indicative of the positivity that we have felt, smelt, and also spoken about. They are not just from nowhere. The indicators, whether it is the PMI manufacturing, PMI services, e-way bills, rail freight, GST collections, all of them, power consumption, all of them are indicating that this positivity and this absolute sense of no, it is happening, we are reviving, is not based on nothing. They are based on concrete evidence. And therefore, I think all of us should draw comfort in the fact that we are seeing all those high frequency indicators steadily, without a break, maybe a notch down, but yet being above in some cases, but in others, absolutely steadily going up. So we need to recognize the fact that India's growth is definitely on the higher growth benchmark, and also that it is sustained. It is sustained since when it started in July, and after that a bit slowly but surely, but now the frequency is definitely far higher than what anyone else would have thought, and as a result you have review of what they think is the revival rate of Indian economy. The recent monthly bulletin of the RBI also spoke about services sector recovery. It also mentioned very clearly that there is a clear revival in the services sector also. And why should we be so much worried about services sector when manufacturing is definitely picking up and well at that? Because the Indian economy's GDP, services contributes 50% or more. And unless the revival of the services sector is sharply felt, most of us felt probably the imbalance would, make some kind of a disruption. So now with the RBI's latest monthly review, which has come out, the bulletin which has come out, we are assured that even services sector and its revival is distinctly felt. And I was so pleased and touched by the wordings which the RBI bulletin had, and I want to share that with you. I quote here, "There is a restless urgency in the air. There is a restless urgency in the air in India to resume high growth. This is the wording which RBI's latest monthly bulletin uses in the context of the growth which is happening in India, and who played what role in having that restless urgency come about is a different debate. But I was so glad to read these candid lines from the RBI in its latest monthly bulletin. So the increasing consumption in the economy is also therefore so much waiting for these two, manufacturing and services sector revival, which is very important. And the strategy that the government took up and the extent of the packages, the three Atmanirbhar packages, meant that we had come up with about 27.1 lakh crores announced during those three packages, which constitute or which is equivalent to 13% of the GDP. And they are of such nature that it wasn't a one-time, I've given it and I've distanced myself. No, they are such commitment which have a greater multiplier impact and also which are going to be through the year and possibly into the next year also. So not only this, the one thing which stands out in India is, unlike even many of the developed countries, thanks to the way this country over the decades placed emphasis on development in vaccines, the pharma sector and so on, today we are in a very comfortable position as regards vaccine supply, not one, not two, probably even more. Some of them getting manufactured because of companies' arrangements for some formulations which have been done outside, and some which are formulated in India, manufactured in India. So I think that combination of the three Atmanirbhar package, 13% of GDP, the announcement on 1st February of a budget which sets the landscape for the next 15-20 years, clearly does not shy away saying what this country needs. No more, if I may say, disinvestment alone, but matter of fact taxpayers' money and the worth of what is being identified for spending the taxpayers' money, leading us to fairly openly say that privatization is one of the things. And what does privatization in the policy that I have announced mean? We are allowing Indian private sector also to seek an opportunity in reviving many of these units where further infusion of taxpayers' money is not possible, and it may not even, because it doesn't have a corollary of government managing it better. We need professionals managing it better, and such monies coming in which become more and more sharply accountable. And that is why this policy, which was announced in the budget, together with the Atmanirbhar, where the monies have gone in for such activities of multiplier giving sectors, and the budget coming up with a policy which is setting up the landscape. Not only that, we very clearly talked about infusing greater capital expenditure in infrastructure. And you know why? Infrastructure creates assets, infrastructure creates wealth, infrastructure also provides the multiplier which is so required at this kind of a time. Now, during this little opening statement, which I'm taking an opportunity to speak about a few things which post the budget I've seen discussed less, I have noticed less discussion on certain parts of the budget. The budget had a lot of things to say. The Atmanirbhar package had a lot of things to speak about. Many big ticket items are being taken up and discussions are happening, and I'm better off for all the discussions which are happening because it's giving me a lot of ideas about how to take it further when I'm executing them. But less known points, which are going to be of great importance for industry, for agriculture, for MSMEs, are things which I'd certainly love people to talk about, write, flag, and also to tell the government this measure is fine, but take a caution here, that measure is okay, but you might have to fine tune it there, and so on. So I take this opportunity, Bodhisattva, to make sure that I can draw the attention of your eminent audience on those less discussed points, because I would think the budget is infused with a lot more things which are not capturing the imagination of the business leaders. I'll just flag them. I may not even get into the details because I'm sure you'll be able to get it. The financing facility for boosting agricultural infrastructure is something which I want to draw your attention. 1 lakh crores was announced, and that was announced for funding activities which will be infused for funding activities for improving the agricultural infrastructure, the farmhead infrastructure, and from there to wherever the market lies for agricultural products. And the aggregation point is something which I want to underline, where industry probably will have a role to play, because that's going to help in bringing value addition for agriculture itself, India's biggest strength. Export markets are so looking up to India's agriculture. That if that's the first, the second is infrastructure development fund, 15,000 crores purely for animal husbandry infrastructure, 10 lakh hectares for improving herbal cultivation. Today, the world is looking for herbal infusion for cosmetics, herbal infusion for wellness, herbal for even some kind of allopathic medicines. So we have said 5,000 crore income generation opportunity exists for farmers here, and farmer producer organizations being with a motive of also enhancing profit for the farmers. This 10 lakh hectares for herbal is something on which agriculture and industry which is interested in agriculture should plan for their next several years. Agricultural infrastructure, again, now funding of it, you will notice I've already said that there will be an agricultural infrastructure funding cess, which is announced on a very few items, but that's going to give me some substantial amount, and therefore my funding is backed up by finances. Now, increasing opportunity for industry is something, again, I like to flag off a few things which I think I have not found much of attraction in terms of debate post the budget. The mining policy in coal sector, which actually gives private sector participation a big chance in exploring minerals, exploring mines, and it is on a revenue sharing model. I love a lot more discussion on it, because that's what is going to open up a very big potential core sector for industry, an opportunity there for private sector. And again, in that revenue sharing model, rebate will be given for those industries who speed up on production. Suppose they're expecting to produce at a particular date and time, and if they're able to bring that date earlier, they're able to start producing earlier. Government has come up with a scheme to say you will get a rebate on anything that you have to pay to the government as a due. So incentivizing production much before the planned deadline date. That's also being given. Even better, diversified opportunities in coal sector. Again, if coal gasification and liquefaction are being planned, government is giving incentive. So it's not a quickly rustled up mining sector reform. Very little detailing, very much of little small detailing has been done, that these small things which appear small but which can be of great incentive and motivation for private sector, I would want a lot more discussion on them and public awareness built on it so that industry can rush in there. One of the other things is, of course, yesterday you saw in the Rajya Sabha, the insurance 74% of opening has been cleared in the Rajya Sabha. It will soon go to the Lok Sabha, and we will certainly come out with that as a budget announcement finding a parliamentary clearance. But I hope we have not missed out talking about, and I hope we have not forgotten that the defense production area has also moved over to automatic route and to reach at 74%. So FDI limit has been increased for the defense production also. Global hub for maintenance and repair and overall airlines. That's also something on which I would like to have industry participation and discussion on how to go about it. 800 crore, the capacity of aircraft component repairs and airframe maintenance will increase from 800 crores to 2,000 crores in 3 years. There's immense opportunity for employment. Our assessment is it will probably touch 60,000 crores just for that one MRO area. Space activities are opened up. A lot of private sector can participate in providing components, making satellites and so on. That is something, again, industry should be talking about. I also will want to now highlight the fact that having heard industry repeatedly tell me that decriminalization of Companies Act is something which is very critical. People are really worried about the aspect that if you start criminalizing every one of those little offences, it's too much of a nuisance. Even that has been decided. The Companies Act has been completely changed for that, and that will declog the NCLT to that extent. More awareness building and also talking about on that. And private companies which list non-convertible debentures on stock exchanges will not be regarded as listed companies. That was also one of the announcements made. I wouldn't take more of your time. One or two more things which I'd like to highlight here again is the Development Financial Institution has been cleared by the Cabinet. I'm taking it to the Parliament at the earliest. Even that should be coming out. And you're aware that comes with tax concessions. You're aware that that law itself is providing for private sector DFIs to come into play. That's something which is major step, I would think. And by March 2022, we will be awarding 8,500 kilometers and complete another 11,000 kilometers of national highways. That is, they are particular corridors, dedicated corridors. They're getting completed also. Shipping has gone through a major change. Flagging of merchant ships in India is a big deal. Global tenders floated by ministries and CPSCs are areas in which Indian shipping companies will be getting incentive and concessions. Ship recycling capacities are also being improved on, and that will be doubled by the year 2024, creating about 1.5 lakh more jobs. So if this growth path for India has to be really high, and for which industry, particularly private sector participation, has to be coming in, the government has brought in several such steps which will be attractive for the Indian industry to say, yes, we have no other reason now to sit back and wonder whether we can survive and prosper, but just to enter in and say, we'll take benefit of everything that has been announced by the government. And that way, I think returning the high growth path is possible, and possible without much of a challenge. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, ma'am. We have some questions from business leaders, but I'll just start up with a quick question of my own, which is that, as you mentioned, you've obviously you moved into implementation mode very fast. The insurance bill is making its way through Parliament, and you've cleared the Rajya Sabha. It'll clear the Lok Sabha very soon. The new DFI has been cleared. Would the government be able to follow the same kind of path when it comes to privatization of the PSBs and insurance companies, where you might face more political opposition? There was a strike, obviously, a couple of days back. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I hope to engage with all those who have any kind of reservation or hesitation on this, because I want to convey through you today, for instance, and subsequently when I engage with them, two critical points for all of us to recognize. When we are speaking about privatization, I do recognize that these units, which are probably profit-making, loss-making, efficient, inefficient, whatever they are in the economic activity producing a particular product. That is absolutely critical for the economy per se. I need that activity to continue. So my privatization is not something which is going to end up selling for closure. No, I'm selling for the business to continue. So that is one thing which we have to keep in mind. Selling for it to be continuing in business because I can't run it efficiently. One, two, I don't have more monies of that quantity that I need, that scale that I need to invest. And I need to be accountable to the taxpayers' money, and that is why I'll have to measure every one of my further infusion of equity into the public sector undertakings, because I need to be answerable for the efficiency of that every rupee. So when I privatize, I want that activity to continue efficiently, continue with more money to come in, and that could come in from the private sector. So that is one of the principles. The second principle is I will ensure that the rights of the workers, the perquisites of the workers, and all the commitments which have been made by the government for the workers there of various levels and categories are ensured. So if these two principles are there, one, that the unit will run more efficiently with more money, and two, if the workers and their concerns are being ensured and addressed by us, I think I should be able to convince and take forward the agenda.
Ma'am, one more quick question from my side, which is that you referred to obviously the recovery, the RBI's latest monthly report. You also refer to the services sector. But in this context, will the current resurgence of COVID cases, we crossed 40,000 a day worryingly yesterday, will this cause a setback and the fear of more lockdowns, which have already starting to happen in some parts of the country? What are your views in this regard? In fact, the services sector, which you referred to, will be the worst hit. I mean, sectors like hotels and restaurants and tourism will be the worst hit if there is more restrictions on activity. What kind of a risk to recovery do you see because of the resurgence of COVID cases?
Yes, we recognize the fact that this resurgence of the COVID cases will be a matter worrying all our minds, not just in the government, but also the industry. I'm grateful that the Prime Minister has engaged with the Chief Ministers to say that all of us will have to work together on this to ensure that in some parts of the country where there is a spike, that has to be immediately addressed. There is also this planning up for ramping up the vaccine being given to the citizens, both from the supply and also the execution point of view. So with the further such focused efforts, I hope that the concern which the vaccine is, concern which the upsurge in the incidence of COVID will be addressed. And because that immediate response from the government is seen and we like to continue that monitoring, I think we will be able to address the concerns about the spike in the COVID cases. However, it just definitely requires a lot of watching out for.